Today I'd like to talk to you all about unhelpful thinking habits. Now, over the years, we will have got into the habit of having some unhelpful thoughts. But actually, as times have been really tough lately, I suspect that many of us are using a number of these unhelpful thinking habits as just a normal way of being. But actually, there's so much that we can do about them. I'm going to run through a couple of those unhelpful thinking habits now and see whether you can identify whether you have any of them. The first one that I wanted to talk to you about is called the critical self. And that's where you have this inner critic that is often talking to you in quite a critical and unhelpful way. We might call that self-criticism. We might blame ourselves. We might think that we're responsible for things that actually we just aren't. So I wonder if you have a really unhelpful inner critic who talks to you in a really unhelpful way. What can you do about that? Well, perhaps pause for a moment, because the important thing about unhelpful thinking habits is just first of all noticing that you have them and ask yourself the question, is this a really helpful thought right now? And most importantly, to counter your inner critic, perhaps say to yourself, would my friends actually speak like this to me? I doubt whether they would. There's definitely something that you can do there when you ask yourself that question and think, no, I know that they wouldn't, so I'm going to stop talking to myself like that as well. Another unhelpful thinking habit is what we call shoulds and musts. Using should and must in our everyday language, whether we're saying it out loud or whether we're saying it inside our heads. I should do this. I should make sure that my children are doing their homework and getting it all finished. I must do the shopping for the neighbours, or whatever it is that you are shoulding and musting about. Shoulds and musts are really unhelpful. They put pressure on us and it's really unnecessary. So in these really tough times, have a think about the importance of self-care for you and perhaps address those shoulds and musts by thinking about what would be realistic right now. What would be the most helpful thing for me to do? Not that I should do or that I must do, but actually what's going to just get us through today in a sane way. So try and limit the number of shoulds and musts that you pay attention to. Perhaps other unhelpful thinking habits might be something called compare and despair. And often people will associate comparing and despairing with social media, comparing yourselves with the pictures or the videos that you see of other people around, other people with their perfect families and their perfect homeschooling setups and their perfect lives. Comparing and despairing is so unhelpful because really, when you think realistically about it, does anybody ever post a picture or a video of an unperfect life or an imperfect life? Rarely. So have a think about what would be the right way for you to think about that actually. Enjoy the pictures that you see, but perhaps think about what would be a more balanced way to think about this. There will be lots of things in your life that you can be proud of and that you can be grateful for. So, but comparing and despairing isn't going to help you today. Another unhelpful thinking habit is called catastrophizing, and that's when we really imagine that the worst thing is about to happen, or where we project into the future and we project about how something is likely to turn out. We don't know how something's going to turn out. We, so what would be really helpful in that situation is just notice that you're doing it. Think about whether or not you can just be in the moment and enjoy today and what you have around you today. And if you still find yourself thinking about the future, well, then ask yourself the question, what actually is the most likely thing that's going to happen? Let me weigh up the risks. Let me gather some facts. Let me see whether I can reduce my anxiety over the future and stop catastrophizing. Sometimes we make mountains out of molehills. I know I do sometimes. Yes, there are dangers. Yes, there are lots of risks, but actually sometimes it really helps if we can see the bigger picture, take a step back and really think about, am I just exaggerating here? You know, is it really the right thing to be doing, to be thinking in this way? Because all of these unhelpful thinking habits are not only unhelpful for you, but there's a fair chance that you might be articulating some of them around your family as well. There's no doubt at all that this is a really anxious time, and sometimes we may actually find ourselves saying that out loud. I feel really anxious at the moment. But actually, it's really important to remember that my feelings are just a reaction to my thoughts. You know, our brain is an amazing thing. It's designed to protect us. And so when we do feel concerned or challenged by something, it will react in that way. It's their attempt, it's the brain's attempt to try to protect us. But actually, we can fight back. We can say, actually, these unhelpful thinking habits really aren't helping me right now. And there's something that I can do about it. I can think differently. You just need to be able to pause in that moment and notice that you're doing it. I really hope you'll give these unhelpful thinking habits some thought, whether it's being critical to yourself, your shoulds and musts, your compare and despair, your catastrophizing. It's absolutely understandable you may be having these unhelpful thinking habits right now, but you don't need to be thinking like this all of the time. So notice yourself, catch yourself in the moment, and try to bring yourself back from those unhelpful thinking habits. I'd love to hear how you're getting on, and if you need any help, please reach out to Life Buddy. Good luck.